I can.
Okay. You're good.
Okay. This session begins with a recap of going back to a point in time when I was a young person, probably about 10, 12, something like that, maybe. It was summer, and we didn't have water between the house and the windmill. We basically had to carry. We had water for the house, i.e. the toilets and washing clothes and all that, but drinking water, we didn't want to run through those nasty old pipes. We certainly didn't want to put it in the cistern, because the cistern was noted for having the hugest frogs in the state. And we didn't want to drink frog shit. So anyway, so it was necessary to go out with a porcelain bucket and go get it, pump it out of the pump directly and bring it into the house so it could be dippered or ladled into whatever my mom wanted to use it for. So we were running low on water, and it was dark. It was late in the hot evening, and Mom indicated she needed more water, so I trotted across the yard to the pump house, went in there, and as I'm filling the pump, I heard something in the corner. I thought it was a cat or something or other. I didn't have the lights on. I just, there's just a little bit of moonlight, and I saw something moving, and I saw eyes. Well, I let out a shriek that would have woke the dead, which brought the dogs. And the barking and the dogs and the shrieking brought my dad. And here is this man. He seemed to be a mile tall. He was black. I'd never seen a black man. I had seen a black lady, but I was very, very, very young. My mother had gone to Detroit, and we were on a train. This lady sitting next to us had pretty bracelets on, and I asked if I could sit in her lap and play with her bracelets. And then I put my finger on my tongue on my finger and rubbed on her hand and said, "It doesn't come off. You don't have to take many baths." And my mother just cracked up, and this woman just cracked up, and they didn't think anything of it. I mean, I was just so astonished. I thought it was so neat that she was that color. My mother told me about this. I was far too young to remember such a thing. But this was during the Second World War. And my grandmother was very ill. My mother was flying, but riding back and forth in a train full of soldiers and people traveling. Anyway, back to the black person. I'd never seen a black man before in my life, and I just let out a whoop and a holler. My dad comes flying out there, and pretty soon he understands that I'm just frightened, and the poor man says, he didn't do nothing. What are you doing here? I'm walking back from Green Bay to Alabama, and I just wanted to get some water. And my dad looked down at his feet. His feet were basically looked like hamburger. He'd walk through his shoes. His feet looked like shit. And my dad said, "Oh my God, that will never do. We got to do something about that." And he told me to go in the house and tell my mom to get her a bucket of Epsom salts, etc., etc. And we had another hired man at that point in time. And this guy's name was Toby. He identified himself as who he was and all that. And my dad and the hired man made a cradle in their arms, basically, and they carried Toby in the house. And Toby was saying, "No, I can't go in your house. If I go in your house, your people are going to be mad at you. I can't be in your house." Went on, and my dad said, "Shut up. Just sit down. Take care of your feet." And they wrapped his feet up and took care of him, fed him, and put him to bed. Well, he stayed with us for a long time, actually. He wouldn't live in the house. He absolutely refused to. He lived in a chicken Quonset hut that we used for raising baby chicks. And it was very nice and clean and totally sterile and nice. So it was a nice place for him, but we wouldn't sleep in the house with white folks because he thought it was going to ruin our reputation. That was interesting. We kids would go to him and sit in front of him, and we didn't know from Uncle Remus and all that kind of crap. He would tell us the most incredible stories. He even told us about some bear rabbits being thrown in the briar patch. He was well-read, he was bright, he was funny. He wrote letters to his wife, which my mother mailed. And one time my dad was on the way back from doing some errand with the farm, and he stopped at the local town, Rockwood. And Rockwood was noted for three things. One, place where you could buy groceries. Two, that you could also get your farm machinery. If you had an international piece of machinery, you'd get it fixed there or order a replacement part. And three, it had more bars per capita than any place else in the county of Kasuth, which was in the township of Kasuth in the county of Manitowoc. Never mind. But my dad had dust in his throat, so he wanted to go have a drink, so he told Toby, "Come on in." And Toby said, "No, I can't go in there." Dad said, "You work for me and do what I tell you. Come inside." So he takes him in and sits him down, and everybody gets real quiet, and my dad says, well, has anybody got a problem? And he says, well, side note, our family was one of the first people to have arrived in that area. Many of the people who lived there were actually servants in Alsace-Lorraine, and my great-great-great-great-grandparents brought them over along with a couple of stallions and a few other things. They brought people with them. Not that they owned them, but they just brought them along because there was nothing for them to do over there. So when they got over here, they had their lives. So
They brought them over
from Alsace-Lorraine, which is a portion of Germany and France, which was never agreed on.
Oh, that's right. You told me about
Different portion of the country. Nobody remembers, but never mind. Anyway, my dad said, well, if you never want to see my face again, give me any trouble about this. And pretty soon everybody's having a hoisting a brew with my dad and Toby. And I just think that story needed to be said because...
Was Toby there for work? Toby
worked for us. He was there from early spring, and when Thanksgiving came, he saved up enough money. My dad paid him. He saved up enough money, and my dad and Mom drove him down to the train station, and he was on his way to Alabama.
So he had left his family to look for work.
He left his family to take a job in Green Bay. When he got to Green Bay, the job didn't, I forget why, I was a child.
Yeah.
The job went away and he had to walk home. He had no money.
Okay.
To walk from Green Bay, Wisconsin to someplace in Alabama, that's insane. But he was in the process of doing that. But my dad said, I rescue stray dogs, I rescue stray cats. Is what the hell? You think you get put your feet or look like shit? Get in the house, I'll take care of you. Just be quiet and do what I tell you. And that was my dad, and that's important because I think a lot of people think being a Republican and being as quote-unquote stiff-necked as I am, and I know I am about a lot of things, but I grew up with the most caring and the most caring about real people, not just projects, not just what it says, but when it comes down to when something needs to be done, when somebody is hurting, don't just stand there with your mouth flapping, do something. And that's what I learned from my parents. They didn't think anything twice about it. The man was black, so what? The man's black. It's got nothing to do with anything. His feet are bleeding. Let's fix it. Okay, I needed to say that.
That's great.